And staff will have the attendance now, and I believe we have a quorum. Is there any public comment?
We don't have anybody on the public here, nor anybody have expressed any interest in providing comment.
Okay, thank you. So you have the consent agenda in front of you, or the items on it. Are there any items that commissioners would like to have removed from the consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Olson, second.
Okay, Carl. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. So we don't have anything for number 5. So that takes us directly to the first item for information and discussion, which is the presentation by David Braun. You want to introduce David?
Yeah, if I may. Thank you very much. As all the commissioners know, transportation planning is a major core activity for our agency, and Connect Transit is also a critical component of transportation planning because it serves people who would rather not to drive, who don't own a car, or who have the option to take the public transit. They do take this public transit and take advantage of the system that we have. And so it is, as you all know about the long-range transportation plan, we'll go a little bit more in detail shortly, but that is a major component of the transportation system for different reasons. And so want to also mention that Connect Transit has been a great partner with MCRPC all these years, and also we've been providing technical assistance as we can for them, and we're delighted to have the 1 year old lovely general manager. They've been having a few changes for that position, but we've been working with David Braun since he has arrived into our area, and we're so glad to have him today to kind of explain a bit more in depth about the transit system in our area. And the MCRPC typically work with 2 systems. One is the urban transit system, which is headed by David, and the other is the rural transit system that is called SoBus. You might have of them before. Someday we'll invite them to give a presentation on that. But today, Mr. Ryan Whitehouse was going to be also be here, but could not make it. But then he is the chairman of the board of the Connect Transit board, and but we have David here to give a presentation on what they do, on the history, and all the good things about our transit system. And so, David.
I just share the screen.
Thanks, Ray. This is certainly one of my favorite topics, so I love coming in and talking to people about public transit. I've been doing this for about 34 years. So yeah, I've had a broad range of experience. I mean, when I first started, the buses that for the system I ran didn't have radios, and now we have electric buses. I mean, it's quite a difference, but what I wanted to do is just kind of go through a little bit of our structure and our funding, but then get into how we actually promote the mission of public transit in the community. First, I want to start with a very brief history. So we as or public transit as a system has been around the Bloomington Normal area for 155 years. So this year will actually be 155 years old. However, as a public system, we've only been around for 50 years. And what happened is, after World War II, as most of the planners know, people started moving away from the central city, moving into the suburbs, moving out from what they considered a congested area to somewhere a little more relaxing, like a suburb. And ridership went down considerably. There was money for cars after the war, and people purchased those cars. So in the late 60s, the government saw a real need to start funding transit, primarily for safety reasons. That people weren't investing in capital, they weren't investing in their buses, the buses were unsafe. Those unsafe buses created unsafe conditions on the streets. So in 1964, they passed the Urban Mass Transit Act. They offered grants, but only municipalities could get those grants. And a lot of them did not want to transfer those monies to the private provider at the time. Here in the early 70s, we had, I believe it was National City Lines, and National City Lines one day decided that they couldn't make it, and they left the city. So that left the city and the town with the challenge of trying to find either another provider or finding a way to provide that themselves. So because the cities and states were able to get those grant funds, they came together, they developed an intergovernmental agreement. So we're an agency that's established by intergovernmental agreement to create the public transit system. In 2012, it was the Bloomington Normal Public Transit. Now we're Connect Transit. Our legal name is still the Bloomington Normal Public Transit System, but Connect Transit is a brand name that was a little more catchy and had some better colors and things like that. So we decided to move forward with that back then. So we have 4 trustees from the city of Bloomington, 3 from the town of Normal. That's really based on population. And then also Billy Tias sits in for Tim Gleason, Pam Reese, and then myself. We comprise the policy leadership of the transit agency. The leadership, the day-to-day leadership, is really entrusted with me per the intergovernmental agreement with the city and the town. What a lot of people don't realize is that most of our funding actually comes from the Illinois Downstate Operating Program. It's 65% is a reimbursement of our costs from the state. So 65% of all of our funding, up to obviously a certain apportioned level, comes from the state. Right now, we're collecting about just over 19% from the federal operating. So that's 5307 funds. We can use those for capital or operating because we're a smaller system. We've chosen to use part of it for operating. We have only about 4.4% of our dollars come from Bloomington, about the same amount that comes from ISU, Illinois Wesleyan, and Heartland combined. And then normal share is just a little less than that. Passenger fares are about 3% of our total revenue. And then advertising and miscellaneous is about 0.7%. So we recently entered a contract for new advertising. We advertise on the sides of the buses, on the insides of the buses, and then of course the wrap buses. Through the new contract, we eliminated a position for us because we had somebody almost full-time selling the advertisement. But we are getting a guaranteed revenue from that. So it was a good decision on our part. We don't have the expenses, but we have a guaranteed revenue. Our fares in July of 2020 were changed to one ride for all. So at the time it was $1 for any fixed route, and then a zone fare for people with disabilities for Connect Mobility. The one ride for fare is $1.25, and that includes everyone, Connect Mobility, people on our fixed route system, anyone that rides, and then we have multiple different types of passes that people can purchase to further reduce that cost depending on how frequently they travel. We also have a mobile ticketing app. It allows people to purchase their tickets online with their phone. And once those tickets reach a certain level, reach that $40 level, it caps off. So it's not like even if they continue to ride, they would have to continue paying that additional $1.25. It caps off at $40. So it's an equitable fare for even people who purchase it with their phone. You can see age 65 is a free with the Connect Pass. We also do state beam circuit breaker ridership that they control the eligibility for that. It's free to ISU, Heartland, and Illinois Wesleyan. And we just announced, I believe it was yesterday, that we're also issuing a free pass for veterans. So starting November 1st, we're providing a STAR pass for any veteran, active or prior military experience. As I said, we cap our fares, and then we sell the passes at a lot of different locations that are very convenient to access. So what I want to talk about really is our mission. So our mission is to provide safe, reliable transportation access and access to opportunity to strengthen and enrich individual lives, our community, the economy, and the environment. And I want to go through how we do that, because I don't think people really realize how Connect Transit is as connected, I guess, as it is within the city and the town. So first is safe. We focus on safety. That's our first core value. And we provide 6 weeks of training, including CDL training. So unlike a lot of truck and other school bus and other drivers, we provide intensive training that allows them to really understand not only how to drive the bus, where to drive the bus, and what conditions might be changing for them. So it's really a top-notch training. We provide ongoing training, the kind of the standard HR stuff, as well as just safety-related training. If there are accidents, we try to retrain our operators. And then we provide daily reminders of how to operate in safety, what conditions to look for. When school starts, we tell them to look for kids. When winter starts, we tell them to watch for slick roads. We just put one out today about driving in fall conditions where the leaves are a little slick. So we're constantly reminding them about how to be safe on the roads. We do provide incentives for their behavior. We have radio, so our radio dispatch is covered by all hours. Every bus has a radio. So even if there's a condition that does not involve Connect Transit, they're able to call our dispatch and able to convey that to 911. And then we also have cameras. So oftentimes we're requested for camera footage. Even though we're not involved in an accident, the police can come to us and request that footage from our bus. And a lot of times the bus is in the area and captures that footage quite well. Another of our missions is reliable, and our on-time performance right now is about 94% for fixed route and 97% for Connect Mobility. Now, fixed route, we call it 0 to 5 minutes is on time. So the on-time performance is based on that. Traffic conditions and any number of other things slow down a vehicle. And then on mobility, there's actually a 15-minute window. So if they're within that 15 minutes, we consider them on time. And a lot of that is just because of the deployment of the ramp and some other issues for mobility that takes a little longer. Our current vehicles, our average fleet age is 6.1 years, but we are purchasing new vehicles, and you may have seen some of the grants that we've received. We have 4 electric vehicles now. We'll be getting another 8 by the end of November. So by the end of 2022, we'll have 12. In 2023, we'll have 5 more. So that's 17. And then in 2024, we'll have 5 more after that. So a total of 50% of our fleet will be electric by the end of 2024. We do have a Connect Transit app, as I mentioned. That app is more than a payment app. It's a trip planner, so people can actually plan their trip, let them know what buses to take. It shows live bus status, so similar to Uber, where you kind of look at it, seeing where your vehicle is. Our app has that. It also provides service alerts, and a lot of the people, actually the majority of the people that ride our service, learn about what's happening on our service on our app. So they learn if there's a delay or something. A detour on our app. And then schedules and maps are also available on that if they want to look into it. Our challenges, just like many companies, we have significant staffing challenges. We're actually down over 10 operators. Last I heard it was 22. When you talk about a staff of only 95, that's a lot of people down. So you know that we did reduce our frequency. We cut a lot of the peak hour service as a result of that. And we are trying to hire people as we can. So we've increased our starting rate, we're providing incentives, but it's a challenging schedule. They have to come in very early in the morning, sometimes stay very late at night. We don't allow any drug use because we're federally funded. Even though it's legal in the state, people who want to partake in marijuana cannot do so working for us. So even though it might be a better job with better benefits, some people choose to have a lesser job because they want to be entertained or whatever. So it's just a situation that we deal with. And then, of course, supply chain issues too. We did have some buses down for as many as 3 months with something as small as a fan motor that we were unable to get because of supply chain issues. That is slowly improving, but the cost has escalated for sure. We provide access to opportunity. So school and work are really the main providers of opportunity that we provide access to. So a lot of people have ridden public transit, maybe in school or in a different city, but when they got a job, they stopped using it. Or if they had a job, it was their first job and they worked until they were able to afford a car or move up to a better job. And that's really what I find is the success of public transit, is that we provide that opportunity so that people can improve their lives, get out into the community, get better paying jobs because we provided access initially and they were able to get to work reliably. We just started a West Bloomington Normal route, which is called the Sapphire Route, and that serves Rivian, OSF Prompt Care, and some others. And as we continue to look at the growth of that area, other suppliers, other manufacturers, that's probably where they're going to locate. They're in Normal. So we think that this will be a good route for the future in attracting employers to the area. And then we started a new Vanpool service recently. It's had a slow rollout, but the Vanpool is really to bring people from outside of the area into Bloomington and Normal to get to work. So if somebody is living in Peoria and can find three or four other people to ride with, we'll provide a van and a stipend for that van, about a $500 a month stipend for that van. The van is provided through Enterprise rental car. They provide the maintenance, they provide the insurance, they provide training for the driver, and the driver is actually somebody who is actually coming to work. So they'll pick up some of their colleagues on their way to work and come to work, park for the day, and then go home and take them all home at the end of the day. So it's very similar to like carpool. Some of you may remember Dagwood and Blondie, and Dagwood was always part of that carpool. It's a similar situation, except we're providing the structure and a stipend for that. So we also strengthen and enrich people's lives, and this is when you look at why people ride for personal, medical, recreational, and those sort of things. A lot of people aren't going to work anymore. They're retired. They have other things they need to do. So they go shopping. They use our service for medical appointments. They go visit. These are things that really enhance somebody's ability to live independently. And we feel that we're a big part of that independent living structure and allow people to do that, live in their homes as long as they can. Our ridership did go down significantly from 2019 to 2021, primarily due to COVID. But when you look at the nature of that ridership, we lost about 40% of our ridership. That means 60% of the people still use public transportation to get to where they were going, likely to work, so that a lot of us could still go out and shop and do the things that we felt we needed to do. So we provided that bridge to allow people to continue to live their lives even during COVID. And then our Better Bus Stop campaign, we are upgrading most of our bus stops and shelters to be ADA accessible. So we're working very closely with the city and town. They're providing sidewalks. We're providing shelters and pads or benches, and even some of the other enhancements. The little blue seat there is called a semi seat. It's a comfortable little seat to sit on temporarily while you're waiting for a bus, but it attaches right to the pole, so it's very simple to install. We do a lot of work just with, we provide access for people with disabilities on our fixed route and using Connect Mobility. Our buses have bike racks, so people are able to actually load a bike on the front of the bus and take maybe their bike for that last mile, or they want to do a different recreational trail since we have so many here in the area. We provide a lot of access for people who want to use their bikes as additional transportation. And we do serve, so the ADA requires us to provide service, mobility service within 3/4 of a mile of a fixed route bus stop. We actually serve the entire Bloomington Normal area. So we do provide a little more service than is required with Connect Mobility, but it does provide that freedom. It provides that freedom to live spontaneously and let them go where they need to go when they need to go. When we strengthen and enrich our community, it's really the partnerships that we have. And Ray mentioned our partnership with the Regional Planning Commission and looking at the Go Safe plan and some of the things that we've been involved with in the past. We feel that we're part of the transportation network, even though we're not infrastructure necessarily. We are an alternative to driving. We have a great, obviously because of the funding partnership, a great partnership with the city and the town. We work with the EDC, the Chamber of Commerce. We work with any number of agencies here in town, and we continue to add to those partnerships. We were just on a call about some potential migrants from Venezuela moving into the area, and they're looking for bus passes and transportation for those people because obviously they need a place to live and they need to get from their place to live to shopping or wherever they need to go. So we're talking about those types of things. We're talking about homeless transportation. I'm having a call this Friday to determine how we can make that more reasonable for people that need to get to warming shelters in the winter. It's really the focus of our conversation. So it's really that bridge to allow people to get around, allow people to leave their cars at home, allow people to maintain their safety. We provide incidental transportation for field trips and student activities. We've had a lot of schools, especially over the summer, their summer camps need something to do. So they'll take a bus to the library, they'll take a bus into downtown. They'll do those types of things using our public transportation system. And I mentioned the COVID ridership already. We provide a lot of first responder support. So not only do we provide heating and cooling buses for first responders if they have an emergency, if they're doing an evacuation, we will provide evacuation services. We do training and drills. You can see in one of the pictures, we did a drill at the airport where they were having a mass casualty event, and we were providing transportation to hospitals from the airport in the event of an accident or a collision or something. So we do a lot of support for those first responders, and including recruiting. The Bloomington Police Department actually just started recruiting on our buses with signs looking for potential policemen or other staff people. We're a safe place, so school children can board the bus and tell them if they're a victim of abuse or need a safe space, and our bus is then obligated, our driver is obligated to take care of that student, let them ride the bus for free, contact our dispatch, and then contact the authorities as needed to keep that student safe. We do buses on the lookout. This is something new, but it's for victims of human trafficking. About 48% of victims of human trafficking have been required to use the bus to their engagements, I guess, for lack of a better term. And about 25% of them have tried to use the bus to get away from their trafficker. So we're training our bus operators to keep an eye out for that type of thing, to recognize when this might be a situation, and then how to deal with that situation, contact the authorities, again, protect them from their abuser. So looking a little deeper into the Sapphire Route, this is the one that serves West Bloomington and Normal. We're providing service directly to Rivian. We've established a more attractive area for future suppliers, but it goes from uptown Normal to Rivian, down Rivian Motorway, down Market Street, and then into downtown Bloomington. So we provide that connection between Normal and Bloomington. We allow people from Normal and Bloomington to access Rivian and all the areas along there. The majority of trips, Jacob, correct me if I'm wrong, are still to Walmart, since the Walmart is on that route.
Getting closer actually in this last week to about a 25% split across like our four major key point destinations, Walmart, Rivian, Uptown, and Downtown.
Right.
So we're starting to see that spread out as people learn it. It's going to be interesting to see how it flattens.
Yeah, and it's only been in service for about 3 weeks now, so we'll see how that continues to grow. We've already found that there are some areas that we can probably modify the route slightly to improve its efficiency without impacting, but we'll continue to look at that. We'll keep it running for about a year just to make sure that that everyone's aware of it. And if it continues to flourish, then we will continue operating. Our Vanpool program was based on something I had heard from the EDC. About 33,000 people commute into Bloomington and Normal every day for work. And when you think about that, those are people who have vehicles available for their trip. There are likely people outside of Bloomington Normal that don't have a vehicle available but could still access work here. So given our employment situation, given the fact that so many employers are having difficulties finding people, we felt that this is a good thing to implement and have public transit support. So again, it's about a $1,200 per month cost for a van. We supply the first 500 of that. And then either the employer or the people using the service can offset that cost. The vans are up to 7 people for a small van or up to 15 for a large van. So there are multiple sizes available. The larger the van, the less costly it is for the riders. And then again, it provides great access to the community in a cost effective manner, given that the insurance is paid for, the maintenance is paid for, a lot of things are paid for.
So does that van reside with one of those drivers?
It does. Yeah, they actually take that van home with them every night. They're responsible for bringing it to get maintained and cleaning it. Another thing that we're looking at to start in the spring is MicroTransit. And we're looking at this as an opportunity to strengthen the economy as well, because the way that our neighborhoods have been built out has been very challenging for public transit. Not only are a lot of the neighborhoods very circuitous, they're large neighborhoods with only one access point to a main road. It's very challenging for people to walk through those neighborhoods and get the bus on that main road. So we're looking at something called MicroTransit. MicroTransit is an app-based solution, so somebody can hail the ride on their app, just like an Uber. It won't be like a taxi. It'll be more of a grouped trip, and that's what the app really provides for us. But it's to engage people within those neighborhoods and allow them to access the fixed route service. The system will be set up in zones primarily, so service within the zone. So say a zone has a shopping center and a neighborhood in it, they would be able to use that service to get directly to the shopping center. If that shopping center or where they're going is outside of that zone, then we would have a connection to the fixed route bus where they would transfer and then get within our fixed route network. So it's really to provide people who don't currently have easy access to a bus to get better access. And that could be senior citizens that might live with their families and not be able to drive anymore. It could be a 16-year-old that needs to get to a game and can't do that. It's any number of people that have those issues in these neighborhoods, but don't have that access to our network. So we're looking at that to roll that out next spring. And the bus, as you can see here, it's a much smaller vehicle, but it is accessible for people with disabilities. We did get a grant recently for electric vehicles. So these smaller vehicles will also be electric, very quiet, very efficient for this type of neighborhood service. We did have an economic development study done back in 2020, and they found that for $1 invested in Connect Transit, $5 returned to the community, and that's just because of the turn. But when you look at the smaller picture, every $1 invested by the city and town, given they only invest about 8% of our total capital or our total budget, about 60% is returned based on their investment. So we reported when we did our electric bus event that over the last 5 years, we've received about $52 million in grant funds. And that $52 million is for things that support this community. Now, granted, the community is likely paid for it through not property taxes necessarily, since it's state funds primarily, but through sales taxes and other types of taxes. But we're getting that to come back in, probably more than the investment that was made. So we're very happy about that. We're thrilled to be part of that. But we are an economic engine in ourselves. We enrich the environment. As I said, We do have electric buses. We will be getting more, but when we have 22 buses, we'll save about 171,000 gallons. So each bus per year will save about 7,000 gallons per bus per year of diesel fuel. What that means for us is two things. One, that diesel can go back into the economy, be used for commercial purposes, farming or whatever. On the other hand, it'll reduce our cost of operating. So our cost reduction can then be turned over into service like MicroTransit and some of the other things. We do have solar on our building right now. Over the last year, we saved, this is based on their data, 178 barrels of oil based on their data and the energy needs for 32.75 households. What it means for us is that we don't really have a utility bill for all the electric that we use in our garage and admin facility. The buses are not charged off of the solar grid. We do have a separate charging for that, and we charge on off-peak times, primarily because we don't have storage for the energy collected. We charge our buses overnight when there's no sun, so we can power the lights and things like that, but we can't really power as much energy as the buses need. We are looking though at a future microgrid. So we have about 5 acres next to our facility that we can add solar, we can add wind, and other things to then charge hopefully a battery system that would then charge our buses. So we're looking to be a little more energy independent in the future. We're just not there yet. So I'll get to my cheesy slides now because I always have to do something cheesy. So this is the thread. Transit is the thread that weaves together the fabric of the community. And when you think about it, it really is. It allows people to get to where they want to go, and we provide that access. Just like the road network does, we do as well. So we are very much part of the infrastructure. And one of the reasons I like transit is it combines history, politics, business, and science and technology into a community service that we provide, and we're able to benefit the whole. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions, feel free.
Thank you, David. Let's open it up for questions by all means.
David, I think historically, the question that you get all the time is size of bus.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about why we have the size we do and what your future plans are for size.
So believe it or not, a larger bus is efficient, not only because of the components are bigger, they require less maintenance over time. When you see a bus and it only has a few passengers on it, you're seeing it in one point of time. So not everyone is being picked up like a charter bus at one location, being dropped off at one location. Over time, that bus capacity ebbs and flows. So there are times a day that we do need more capacity. So we buy the bus that we need for the highest capacity of the day. Future, you can see our MicroTransit service will replace some of those buses. We anticipate that that'll replace some of our underproductive, non-productive routes. So we'll have a much smaller bus for that smaller number of passengers as we continue to look forward. But we're probably not going to fix or replace our core buses with smaller buses, only because, again, in the core, there are times that we need the capacity on those buses. Another question I get, if I can maybe anticipate a question, is about our transit center. There's been a lot of news about our downtown transit center. We have $18 million to invest in downtown, and we've been looking for a spot. We identified the Pantograph as the best spot initially, but when I came on board last year, we recognized very quickly that we couldn't afford to build out the Pantograph. Not only did we have to maintain a lot of the historical elements of it, but there was a lot of remediation with asbestos and just the size of the facility and everything else. So we looked at alternatives. We had Farnsworth do a transit study not too long, or a facility study not too long ago, and they identified a number of alternatives. The second one on the list was actually the Market Street Garage. So we're currently working with the city right now. We hope to have a press release out shortly about our working with the city to develop that site into a parking deck and a transit facility. So the city would manage the parking deck, and we would have a transit facility incorporated into that parking deck, similar to Uptown Station, but without the larger building above it.
David, is this information readily available to the public? And I've learned a lot of things I didn't know just listening to your presentation.
Well, that's why I like to do these presentations.
But why am I only finding out now? What am I missing?
You're not missing much, actually. We do have a website, but it has not been updated, so we're working on improving that communication. We just awarded a messaging campaign RFP to a company out of St. Louis, and they're going to help us tell our story, how best to get out in the community, tell that story so that everyone recognizes that we're not just big empty buses running around. We do a lot more for the community.
So the website will be the best place to get the information.
I think so. We also started a newsletter recently, but that's only once every 2 months, and we'll just be trickling out information in that over time.
And how do people get access to the newsletter?
Well, we'll definitely put this group on the list, but that's also available on the website as well.
Dave, the community has a lot of senior living centers. How many of them do you think you serve, and do you get any requests for service by those organizations?
We really don't. A lot of them have their own transportation. So I think over time we should have made that partnership, and we maybe didn't as much as a lot of other communities have. But it's something I think in our long-term plans that we need to continue to engage with. As you know, a lot of them built kind of on the periphery of town, so it's difficult to provide service. Service isn't provided typically very frequently to those locations. So I think MicroTransit would be a great solution for them to offset some of their individual rides. And then, like I said, a lot of them have their own vans for their group trips.
Stan Gozier, representative from Unify. And what caught my attention was that MicroTransit.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've been in contact with Connect Transit in the past about what possibilities there might be for families to be able to access our buildings, which oftentimes are further away from their neighborhoods, not necessarily profitable or reasonable in that situation. So I think once the MicroTransits gets stood up, I think that could really benefit those families that want to be involved in the schools, but really don't have a way of communicating because getting there today, maybe they have 0 or 1 vehicle and that vehicle is not available at the time.
Sure, and we've had a lot of discussion with District 87 and Unit 5 about some of those neighborhoods, like on South 51, South Main Street. There's a large trailer mobile home park that we don't serve, that is technically outside of Bloomington Normal, so we're not allowed to serve it with a fixed route bus, but they really desperately need transportation because, I mean, right now they're paying to have their groceries. We had somebody come to our board meeting. She's paying to have somebody deliver her groceries. She can't attend her kids' school events because she doesn't have a car. Things like that I think would really enhance neighborhoods. So even within our IGA, I think we have to take a look at our intergovernmental agreement and work with the city and town to allow a little extension into something that would better benefit. Because even Show Bus, that's a bad location for Show Bus because Show Bus serves the entire area, and this is only like 1 mile outside of downtown or outside of our district. So yeah, there's a lot of things that we can work on to improve, and hopefully we will be doing that over the next few years. Jacob is our planner, so I put the onus on him to make it all happen.
Almost done.
Can I get them?
Oh, I'm sorry.
David Renlesser, Ferrero Candy Company.
Oh, terrific.
Have some candy.
Thank you.
Do you have a capacity utilization study that you can share with us?
Like how many people on board the bus at any given time?
What you're busing, like for each route, what is your capacity for that route? And how much is it utilizing, like time of day with peaks and valleys in that day?
I think we have the data to do that, but we have not done that. So
Okay.
that's certainly something that we can share.
Because I'm trying to do the math, I'm trying to figure out how you determine how many buses you need, how many employees you need, how much maintenance cost you need, how you budget.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And how do you, that budget has to be based on the demand.
Right.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how you figure that out. You know,
And I will tell you that our routes were established probably in the early 70s. They changed a few times since then. Some of them are just historic routes. So we are planning a route study, hopefully early next year, to help identify that as well. And a lot of the demand is, it's a latent demand in that, I don't want to say if you build it, they will come, but we don't know the demand for that route until that route is operating. You know, people aren't demanding public transit, they take public transit when it's available. So it's kind of an odd situation for us when you look at kind of a typical business model of demand.
understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, just of what you have happening today, you know, like an audit of how well that works.
Sure.
And
Sure.
where are the opportunities? You know, like you said, you've got a vehicle that carries, you know, 40 passengers, and its peak utilization is 10 people at 8 a.m.
Mhm.
and 10 people at 5 p.m. Well, maybe we could change that model for that
Well,
route, you know?
But you're still paying a driver, which is about 70% of the cost.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the vehicle itself isn't the big cost driver, it's the person behind the wheel.
right.
That's the cost driver of that vehicle.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to be cavalier about it, but we do purchase our vehicles with federal and state monies. So we do look for longevity more than we look for maybe practicality, for lack of a better term. But you're right. There are times, especially Saturdays and Sundays, and Jacob and I are talking about this now, that we don't think that we need a lot of the routes that we have. Our ridership isn't very high. So when we do introduce MicroTransit, that might be an excellent time to replace a number of buses that run along a corridor with something that's more demand responsive and serving only the need.
Yeah.
So we're definitely looking into that. And our study, I think, next year will shed a lot of light on that.
Awesome. Thank you. I look forward to it. All right.
Thanks.
David, it's Carl out at the airport. How are you today?
Great. How are you, Carl?
Good. I want to thank you, first of all, on behalf of myself and the Airport Authority. You and Connect Transit and your team have been a fantastic partner for the airport. We appreciate the chance to work with you. We also appreciate your forward thinking and your innovative designs on things. I'm interested in the Vanpool service. Can you tell me how that's going? And I'm curious about what markets it's being operated in now.
It's being operated in over 100 markets. Like Pace in Chicago runs their own. A lot of smaller systems like ours do contract with Enterprise. So I'd be happy to share that with you, but I don't have that information with me right now. What we found is that it's rolling out very slowly. Because it's for people from outside the area to the area, we're trying to find those employers who are willing to share the word about it. And Enterprise, we found, has some restrictive requirements. One is they need to sign up for the commuter benefit through the IRS. So the IRS will actually allow you to pay for it through pre-tax benefits, which is a great deal. As a matter of fact, it offsets that cost for most people every month. But it puts the onus then on the employer to file all that paperwork, to do all those things. And it's very challenging for smaller employers to do that. I think the larger ones, for Rivian, they would be more willing. So we've had a lot of interest, but not a lot of employers who want to take it to the next level. So Carl, we're actually planning a webinar through the chamber for employers to come on board, talk about the Vanpool service, and then we'll be continuing to meet with them privately through Enterprise. Enterprise has their own sales team that does this. So we are continuing to look at it, but right now, unfortunately, we rolled it out we approved it in May. We haven't rolled out one vehicle yet, and we're still trying.
Great. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'd like to keep up on that with you also.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that might be some Ferrero would be interested in.
Yeah, we actually have
And you're gonna,
survey circulating through Ferrero.
and I
right
heard
now.
you're gonna put a stop by us, but that's what I heard.
Close, yeah.
Great.
Any other questions?
Oh, I was going to ask if when you roll out the micro service in the future, which is going to be pretty soon, are you going to be able to continue the free fares for over 65s and some of the other categories of people? So basically, people are going to be able to take their app, call for a ride when they need it, and get picked up and taken either to their destination or to a fixed route,
Correct.
all at no cost.
For those that are 65 and older, veterans, yeah, those that qualify will still be able to do that.
That's a pretty remarkable benefit to offer any community.
Yeah,
That affects a lot of people.
A lot of communities run MicroTransit as a premium service because it is so on demand. We haven't made that decision yet, so we'll see if it is a premium service. But even within a premium service, seniors tend to get either half fare or free fare for those.
I'll put that in my retirement plan.
live in neighborhood that's served by MicroTransit.
Any other questions? All right, well, let's move on to the next item then, regional housing update. Ray, you're going to do that?
Yeah, actually, I'm going for Kesa, who actually has moved on to work for one of our municipal partners in the area. And so I'm doing the update for her, but she wanted me to relate to the commission that she has enjoyed her time here and appreciate the opportunity to work for MCRPC for last like little under 2 years. But we'll still be seeing her, except she'll be on the other side, so to speak. So, but she has provided the updates that I'm going to kind of relate to you. One is regarding the Housing Assistance Coalition, and the coalition I've seen, as you all know by now, because we do this update every month, that there's a coalition made up of different partners, nonprofits, governmental entities, to provide assistance to people in need in terms of housing. And so there's the coalition that received number of calls and actually increased this number of calls and cases than back in August and September of this year compared to earlier months this year. And the homeless shelters continue to report that they are at full capacity. The EMA, the county, is the Emergency Management Agency. They have some information about this year's warming centers, location and hours on their website. You can look for that information. And also MCRPC staff is participating in a subcommittee to ensure those warming centers and the homeless shelters are accessible during periods of excess snow. So I'm glad to hear David mentioned something that they're looking into how they can help out with this community issue for those people who are in need of shelters. The IHDA, Illinois Housing Development Authority, state housing agency, they have an emergency homeowner assistance fund that has reopened just yesterday, November 1st, and any qualifying household can receive up to $30,000 for delinquent mortgage payments, property taxes, homeowners insurance, among other assistance. So if you know anybody, your association, organizations that by people that may need assistance from the state should look into it, because I think it's on a first come first basis too. Another item of updates related to white papers that we do periodically. So 2022, we have an update made to the white paper regarding the income qualified housing issue number 2, types of housing units and vouchers. And we have presented that white paper to the staff committee, and which made up of like staff of different local partners of the public agencies. And so we're waiting for next month for them to consider approval or not. So they have the time now to review that draft document. And we also, our staff also have updated local data to our housing data dashboard, and also have presented that information to the staff committee. again, those information for your consideration and information. Any questions?
Thanks, Ray. You want to go ahead with the Vision Zero Go Safe project?
Yeah, again, we're looking at, as we kind of mentioned before, we got looking at this implementation stage for the Go Safe plan. And as you know, we received 2 grants from Illinois Department of Transportation related to safety, transportation safety. So we're working with them on the agreements still. It's a process, it takes some time. So we're working with them on that. So that's kind of the latest update in terms of that. But staff is getting ready once those 2 agreements are in place and executed, then we're going to start all the activities that are required by those grants, including the different ways to promote and advocate safety in just for different means. And we'll give you more updates when we get to the more specific activities later on. So those, and then as you know too, the SS4A application with the federal Safe Streets and Roads for All application. So we'll wait for a few more months, probably at least till January, for us to hear back from them. So, but those are the implementation things that we have on our drawing board.
Okay, and on the Metropolitan Long Range Transportation Plan?
So we have some good news. And some of you who serve on our project steering committee, including Connect Transit and some of you representing different organizations and a few other people outside of this room today. Well, we had the planning process start this past March, and to the point that last Friday, the plan was approved by the Transportation Policy Committee of, I guess, MCRPC. And this is an important step because from the federal highways perspective, that's the body approval will be needed. And so they did approve the plan last Friday. And so we have, although the planning process ran from March through end of October, and actually, as you all know, staff had done a lot of work preparation-wise before March of this year. And so all this came into place, and then thanks to all the input, advice, we've been updating the planning commission every month, and we have focus group meetings and a lot of different elements that came into play. So we have one slide that kind of captures this process, and really is an integration of a number of elements. So hopefully this would, okay, great. Can you maximize it, please? Yes, great, thank you. This one slide really captures the process we're going through. It is really an integration of a number of elements, from public outreach, engagement, that we have done through surveys and going to events, through websites, collecting comments, doing surveys and putting surveys in public libraries, working with the schools and other organizations trying to get responses. And then to the 5 focus groups that we have formed and held meetings with and participation from different organizations, to the project steering committee that I mentioned with members representing the different organizations and sectors of the community, to the data collection analysis. Just back in, I think it was back in August, as you recall, you approved a contract with the consultants to do population projection. So the results was integrated and was considered as, when the plan, before the plan was adopted and put together. Existing plans, this 2050, the Metropolitan Long Range Plan 2050, we also we have to take into consideration the past plans, whether it's the local plan that was done in 2017 for the long range transportation plan, or some of the state highways plan, or the federal, they have different planning documents and publications. Well, all those was they were taken into consideration as well. And to the point that we also have developed with the assistance and guidance of the project steering committee on the goals and objectives and strategies, performance implementation, which covers a lot of different areas such as safety and sustainability. So a lot of different things kind of integrated to this one document that was adopted last Friday. So we will be actually we have submitted, well, we're going to be submitting actually this week to the Federal Highway Administration. And so we'll be in a document. It will be official, and then unless they have issues, but once that is filed, then we'll really start looking out for opportunities for implementations. You know, things such as, I'm using transit as since transit is making the presentation today. For example, they'll be applying for some grants in the future. So we'll be looking at, for the feds or the state, they'll be looking at, okay, how's that in compliance with the regional comprehensive plan for transportation, right, along this plan. So we can see, okay, there's objectives on sustainability and climate, so electric buses, right? And also there are your public safety, because less people will be driving than because they take bus, and so the less number of cars, and theoretically there'll be less number of accidents or crashes or possibility of those. And so a lot of times the document got referred to when we apply for different grants, and transit just one example, the safety grant that we applied for recently, as I mentioned, we refer to those comprehensive plans. And there are other things like greenways, trails, because that's viewed as like a mode of transportation, right? People moving from one point to another. So someday when the school districts, on safety or school buses, there are a lot of these applications that really this document is would be useful. So I just want to share with you really we don't want it to be just a document sitting on the shelf, although it's adopted last Friday, but then it's something we always keep looking out for opportunities to apply for grants or different applications that would help our community in the region. So, I just want to show this slide and give you an update on this exciting milestone for this project. I again appreciate all this many months of those who serve on the PSC and planning commission members too, because we have been keeping you informed of the progress of the plan and then your advice and comments.
Thank you, Ray. Does anyone have any questions on any of those items? Any other business to come before the commission? If not, I'd like a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you, Carl.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.